It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligiero. It's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game. Check it out. Get yourself a copy right now. Visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week boxing channel. That's right. You get to watch replays of this show, plus all the other specials we've done over the last 15 years. As we enter our 16th year, there'll be a lot more, so check that out. And today's show is being brought to us in part by SouthernGourmetSpice.com. Check out why I use Kenny Bears on all of my stuff. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Men on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. If you're looking to get a signed copy, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. As I said in the beginning of the show, just a couple seconds ago, we are entering our 16th year doing this show. I'm real excited about that. I know we just took a couple of weeks off for the holidays. I hope everybody had a great holiday season. And it's time to get back to business here, and my business is boxing. So we're going to be talking about boxing. I got my man Sal Sanicola joining us a little bit, Dax Khan, Alice Papali, Emily Harney. Everybody is chomping at the bit to kick off the 16th year of this show. And as usual, we hope to improve as we go along. And if you haven't checked out the channel, the Billy C. Boxing channel, you can watch it through all the major streaming services. Roku is the one I recommend. And it's under Ginico USA. They have a great channel lineup, but you'll find us there. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of our stuff. And some of the stuff that is on there, my favorites are the Boxing Revisited shows that Sal and I did, as well as some older stuff. 16 years is a long time, and some of the specials that we've done over the years, you could see much younger versions of myself and Alex and Dax. So make sure you check it out. Even some stuff in the beginning when the technologies weren't the same, the video and broadcast technologies. I know there was a show we did up in Canada, Johnny Blaze Robbins and myself. We had no video that we could actually broadcast at the time. So we had to go back and take the video and take out stills of the video and match it to our audio, which was pretty interesting. There was a couple of great cards up there in Canada. So check it out. The programming does get changed. So if you find yourself, tuning in the same day, same time type of a thing, and you're watching the same thing over and over, try a different time. Or go to you can actually, on the channel, there's a spot where you can go previously during that day and pick other time slots that had broadcast the show, a DVR of sorts, I guess. But anyway, I want to talk about a couple of fights that ended 2019. First and foremost, Daniel Jacobs he took care of business against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. This was kind of a strange fight for me to watch. Daniel Jacobs, first of all, I applaud him for getting rid of his trainer for so many years. That was just took him as far as he could. Andre Rozier, as you guys have heard me say many times in the past, I think is a terrible trainer. Honestly, he is. Nothing against him personally, but he did take Daniel Jacobs to a world title. But Danny Jacobs looked so much better in his fight against Chavez Jr. Now, Chavez, on the other hand, looked really good in the beginning of that fight. When I started watching that fight, I was saying, wow, maybe Chavez has finally, realized that his career is serious. And then it was the same old thing with Chavez. First, it kicked off prior to the fight. He was almost 5 pounds overweight. So the super middleweight fight became a light heavyweight fight. He did look like a monster in there. And then he ended up quitting. Quit on his stool. No more. It got really crazy in that fight. People throwing stuff. Watching the broadcast, they had to protect themselves. It got ugly, man. It got ugly. And Daniel Jacobs was really cool about how he handled it. And he was right. He was saying, basically Chavez stole his moment from him by being a quitter. The look of anguish on his father's face, the great Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Hall of Famer, when he saw his son go to the corner and he knew that he was quitting, he just shook his head. We come to find out that he did make an announcement the following day that Chavez Jr. had broken his nose. But, not to sound, I don't know, barbaric, but how many fighters have gone through fights with broken noses and broken hands and worse, broken legs? I mean, it's what they sign up for. He quit. He quit in the corner. This has to be the last shot. I hope we never see Chavez again. He's a disgrace to the sport of boxing, in my opinion. Never lived up to the expectations. Certainly, his father. His father must be sick. But anyway, kudos to Daniel Jacobs. I hope he continues. I thought that he looked really good and strong at that weight. I know he was planning on fighting at super middleweight. Maybe he should consider light heavyweight. Some big fights for him up there. Canelo Alvarez has vacated the the light heavyweight title that he won off of Kovalev, which is an indication that he doesn't plan on campaigning at light heavyweight, which, again, I thought that Canelo looked extremely strong at the light heavyweight weight class. So who knows? But in any event, on the undercard of that fight, in the flyweight division, Julio Cesar Martinez. Who doesn't love this kid? This was the guy that already won a title and then lost it in the ring when he hit his opponent while he was down, which he clearly did in the heat of battle, and then got another title shot against Christopher Rosales. And what an exciting fight that was. Martinez scored a ninth-round stoppage over Rosales to get the win and the WBC flyweight belt. Exciting fight. I can't wait to see this kid again. That's for sure. But a couple of fights that took place. And the last fight was actually last week. Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis, fought Yuriorkis Gamboa for the vacant WBA lightweight title. Now, I want to start off by saying this. I've always been a huge fan of Gamboa. I actually, and I keep promising this for several years, I have all these interviews over the last 16 years now, and some of them are quite unique. Getting young fighters on their way up, Andre Berto, Danny Garcia, and Yuriorkis Gamboa is one of them. I got one of the first interviews with Gamboa when he first came over to the country. Had to have an interpreter, the whole nine. And I always loved him. Loved his attacking style, totally offense minded. We learned over the course of his professional career that he really never learned defense. He had such athletic ability and hand speed that he was totally reliant on that. Well, what we saw against Tank Davis was an aging fighter where he just couldn't get off on his punches. His body, his mind was knowing what to do, but his body didn't react quick enough. My problem wasn't an aging Gamboa. I was expecting that. I was sad to see. It was sad for me to see Gamboa in that state, especially against Tank Davis, whom I like. But to be honest with you, Tank Davis should have stopped Gamboa, should have made quick work of Gamboa. When he's shooting off his mouth saying that, he's the best lightweight, when you got guys like, Vasily Lomachenko around the corner. I tell you the truth, that particular fight proved to me that Gervonta Davis does not have a chance in hell against Lomachenko. No chance. I know he was respecting Gamboa, but after 5 rounds and seeing that Gamboa couldn't let his hands go the way he is used to, his hand speed just wasn't there. He was accurate. He was landing a couple of counter punches on Davis, but his hand speed just wasn't there. Davis should have just shifted into the next gear and taken Gamboa out. He did not do that. The fight went the distance. It was a one-sided decision. But still, it actually didn't go to distance. Re-stopped the fight with a minute and 17 seconds in the last round to give Davis the stoppage. But it could very well have gone the distance. I can't stand that referee. I can't stand him. He pushes the guys he doesn't like around, and to listen to commentators say how great of a referee is a joke. It just goes to show you that a lot of these commentators really don't know what they're watching. Also on that card, Jean Pascal improved to 35 wins, 6 losses, and a draw when he won a split decision over Badou Jack. I thought Jack won the fight. I thought it was a close fight. I thought that Badou Jack landed the more solid punches. Pascal is just a wild fighter. He was the guy that was supposed to win the fight, and he won. I don't think he won the fight. I think that fight should have been a draw, or I gave the edge to Jack, but that was me. And in a fight that was an upset, 100% on that card, was Lionel Thompson improved to 22-5 when he beat Jose Uzugai with a unanimous decision, 95-94, 96-92 twice. That fight shocked me. But in any event, some news, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, we knew the rematch was coming. It's official. It is set to take place on February 22nd at the MGM in Las Vegas. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And it brings me a lot of Deontay Wilder come out and take care of business quicker. Is Tyson Fury going to do the same thing? There's been some smack going on between the two fighters already. It's going to be interesting to see, but really it's the first big fight of 2020. I'm looking forward to it, but it can't come soon enough for me. I just still have this feeling that the fight itself may not come off. I don't know. Tyson Fury's been making a lot of money outside the ring, and Wilder just makes a lot of noise. But it's an interesting fight. But first, I want to get some thoughts on the Gamboa fight, and Daniel Jacobs. And joining me right now is my main man, Sal Rocky Senecola. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Billy C. Happy New Year, pal.
Happy New Year to you, my man. Glad to have you with us in more ways than one. But first and foremost, did you get a chance to watch the Gamboa Gervonta Tank Davis fight?
Yes, I did, but I will tell you, I didn't see the complete round by round. I saw the highlights of several rounds. I just couldn't bring up. I couldn't access it. Every time I did, it continually said no longer available for viewing, something like that.
Well,
So,
you
but
probably
I-
saw
I
you,
did-
you probably saw the best parts of it. What I was saying earlier was that Gamboa he was an aged fighter, and his reflexes were not reacting to what his mind was telling him. But to tell you the truth, Sal, I thought maybe Tank Davis should have taken him out in that fight a lot sooner.
Yeah, I really thought that, I thought Tank would have probably taken him out before the fifth, sixth round, but he looked like he could have any time, really. But I guess he put in some work, and it was inevitable. I knew Tank was going to beat the guy.
Let me ask you.
I wanted him to drop the hammer.
Let me ask you this: does Davis have a chance with Lomachenko?
I don't want to even really say it right now. I think it's a definitely a fighter's chance, of course, but there's still some unknown entities. But I don't think he's going to get past Lomachenko.
No.
I really don't.
No.
First of all, Lomachenko's a full lightweight now, and I think he's just Lomachenko's just one of the best. I think Tank is very good. I think he's going to mature and get better and better. But I think Lomachenko is probably going to beat him.
Did you get a chance to see the Daniel Jacobs Chavez Jr. fight?
No, I didn't. How was that?
Well, Chavez pulled he quit on that. So nothing.
Well, what do you expect? The guy's been a quitter ever since he started fighting.
I know, and it's a shame because first of all, I'm sure this will please you even more. He came in almost 5 pounds overweight, Sal. 5 pounds.
Yeah, what do these idiots bring the carrot, back to resurrection? This guy has dog in him. He doesn't fight. He's not a tribute to his father's legacy. He's just I'm telling you, I'm pissed at that.
No, he came in overweight. He did look good. Then he quit on his stool. He broke his nose, and not to sound brutal, but how many times have fighters fought with severe cuts? You yourself, broken noses, broken arms, hands, and they keep going. It's unfortunate for boxers, but the boxing fan expects them to continue. In MMA, they can tap out and quit. Nobody says anything. But in boxing, if you quit on your stool, you pay the big price with the fans' eyes. Can you give me some thoughts on that? Like why you think fans feel that way?
Well, because you're a warrior. You try to live up to what you're passing yourself off as, and when you fall short of that, we are human, and we should never quit. And that's not the spirit of a true champion or fighter. And I'm very much not a big fan of Chavez Jr. And you and I have seen him lose time after time and not put up the fight just for even his father's legacy. So. No, he doesn't deserve another chance. He really shouldn't.
You should have seen. You should have seen his father when he quit in the corner. He just put his hands. He put his head in his hands and shook his head, and he was embarrassed.
I said, "Oh shit, not again! Please, I can't do this again."
That's pretty much what he looked like. But all right, let's get. We're in our 16th year. I'm glad you're part of the show. We're entering.
Thank you.
Our 16th year. We're loving it. Big fight to kick off 2020 in a couple months, or a little less than 2 months, on February 22nd, is the rematch. Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury will be taking place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Sal, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about this, but the fight has been made official. The last 2 fights that each of these fighters had, they were supposed to win, and they both did. what's your thoughts? Do you think that this fight is going to be any different than the first fight? I mean, do these guys go in with different game plans? One change that has taken place that I believe is a significant change is that Tyson Fury has a new trainer. And, I've always thought that was a mistake of fighters going into big fights. Sometimes it proves me right, and sometimes it proves me wrong. Do you think it's going to matter in this fight? And do you think that the game plans of both these guys are basically going to be picking up where they left off?
Yes and no. I think pretty much. I think that Wilder, he's got that punch that will just knock your head off, and I see him utilizing that. And we also saw him kind of box a little more last time. I think he's gonna want to just be making a statement, and I think Fury, to his credit, I mean he is a warrior, and he's done things and he's moved like a big guy should have no right to, and a guy like him, you just never know. That's why he's so elusive and good. But I do think that Wilder, he catches you in the wheelhouse, and it's going to be lights out. I think so.
Do you think so? You're predicting, an early prediction is Wilder's going to knock Fury out this time, and you think it's going to be earlier?
Well, I think he's going to want to really make that statement, and he's going to go out there. And I think you got two big guys like that, and it's going to be a great fight starting. But I don't think it's going to go past 5. I really don't.
Huh? You think he's just going to come out and attack him, huh?
Yeah, I think so. I think there'll be initial maybe one round just feeling each other out a little bit, but then I think Wilder is going to lower the boom and try to get him out fast. Because he knows how dangerous he could be later in a fight.
Well, in the first fight, I kind of thought that that's what Wilder was doing, and I kind of thought that that's exactly what Tyson Fury was expecting. And, the end result was most of us believed that despite being dropped twice, and one of the times I thought he was dead, we all thought that Tyson Fury still won that fight. And, if Deontay Wilder comes out, and I can understand your point, because he's going to feel, hey, I know I can knock this guy out. He didn't hurt me. I'm going to go after him quicker. I'm not going to respect him, et cetera, et cetera. I think that kind of, I can understand your view, Sal, and I can certainly agree with it to a degree. That Deontay Wilder has that freakish punching power. He is going to go all out attack. But I think the equalizer is the fact that Tyson Fury is expecting that. And I think that his defensive game, which is so good, plus his counterpunching, which is fantastic, is exactly what kept him in the first fight. If I'm Deontay Wilder, I approach this fight slightly different. We noticed when Tyson Fury fights somebody that forces him to be the guy who makes the first move, so to speak. Tyson Fury's not the same fighter. He's better when people are attacking him, and he can use his boxing. He can use his boxing ability and stuff like that. I think that it's time, and nobody's been more critical of Deontay Wilder than myself, that Deontay Wilder's a one-dimensional fighter. He's got punching power. Yeah. That's it. He's got no movement. He displayed a good jab in one fight, and that was against Bermane Stiverne. I think that if Deontay Wilder truly wants to win this fight and win it convincingly with a knockout, I think what he needs to do is he needs to fight a more traditional boxing match. Take it, approach the fight as a boxing match, not a seek and destroy. And I think that he will throw Tyson Fury off his game if he does that. And I think that if he had the ability, Sal, to jab him and move and make Tyson Fury come after him, it'll set up shots for him to land when Tyson Fury's coming forward. The big question of the year, and it's early in the year, but the big question of the year is, can he do it? Does he have the boxing ability to do it? And my answer is no, I don't. So therefore, I think that the fight is going to be, I think, a carbon copy of the first one, with the difference of the burden is going to fall on Fury to be a little more careful.
That's a very good assessment, and I can see the fight going like that as well. I don't think that Fury could really withstand that much punishment this time, and every time that head gets knocked, what does it leave for the next fight? And we've seen many times a fighter is not quite the same after a war. Now, I'm sure, Fury is not going to have that kind of effect, but you never know. You never know. We're going to see. As soon as I think Wilder hits him with a good shot, you don't know what is going to bring back memories and what he can do, because he's never really been in that position. But I think it's going to be a very good fight, and you made some excellent points, my friend.
Yeah, I just think it's time for Deontay Wilder to show us something different. I mean, the truth of the matter is if he had something different, I think he already would have showed it to us. I think he's a one-trick pony, and fortunately for him, that one trick has been very successful for him. He's exciting he's exciting to watch because people that love boxing love a knockout. And so far, for all of his fights, except for the one, or actually two now, he's gotten a knockout. So I think he's going to do exactly what you said. I think he's going to come out, seek and destroy, try to end it quickly, and I think that Tyson Fury is just, that's what he's planning on him doing. And one thing about Tyson Fury is I think he's a hell of a lot smarter than Deontay Wilder in every aspect, especially inside the ring. So I just, and the thing is Deontay has a great trainer, and if he listens to his trainer, which at times he seems like he does, I think it's time for his team, Deontay Wilder's team, to come up and devise a game plan that Deontay sticks to it and gets Tyson Fury thinking. And if you got him overthinking instead of just reacting, Wilder's got a chance to end the fight sooner. If he comes out doing what he did the first fight, we may see a carbon copy.
We may, and that's a great point, Billy C. You really do assess this totally, and I appreciate it. It still befuddles me how you could have Mark Breland, who, let's say there was not another Golden Glover or guy like that could fight, that could box, that could do things. I just can't believe he cannot get through to Deontay Wilder. And it's the question I always ask myself. I said, I can't believe that Mark Breland is the trainer of Deontay Wilder, because I think he should do so much more, but he just doesn't. So, like I said, he probably counts on his one trick, and he's won with it. But Breland, I give him some credit to try and change him. But then again, why change a proven entity,
Yeah, but we don't know that he hasn't tried. We don't know what they do in the gym. Breland probably, listen, Breland has proven to be a great trainer, just as good as great as he was as a fighter. I just think that, fighters have a tendency, and come on, Sal, I'm assuming you're going to agree with me, but fighters have a tendency in the heat of the battle. Every fighter that comes out, and if they're an attack fighter and somebody teaches them, oh no, you gotta jab, you gotta set up the thing. It's like a quarterback that's a runner in college, and they get drafted in the NFL, and the first thing they want to do is make them a pocket passer, and it's like they work on it and work on it and work on it, and in training camp and in practice, that quarterback can do it. A fighter that's an attacking style, they work on a jab, and in training camp, he does it. In sparring, he does it. But as soon as the bell rings and he gets hit, he goes back to what's normal for him. And just like the quarterback who ran and scrambled his whole career, they revert back to that because it clicks automatically. They don't have to think about it. And I think that's exactly what happens with fighters. That a fighter, when they get clocked or they get into some kind of trouble or something isn't working the way they planned it, something clicks in their mind and they go back to what is their comfort zone. It's like being a right-hander and all of a sudden trying to develop your left hand, and all of a sudden when push comes to shove, you're back utilizing that right hand. So am I right? I mean, it doesn't automatic take over at some point?
You make some great points, Billy. And when you're in the trenches, you kind of revert back to what you feel most comfortable. And that's just, let them go and do this, do that. But, and that could be very much the case, if, you're in that wheelhouse and you're getting shots that you didn't expect. But, that's a hell of a point. It really is. And I think that we're going to see a good fight. I know it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be what two big heavyweights are supposed to bring to the table. And I really feel that, just in my heart of hearts, I just feel that one-trick pony is going to surprise a lot of people earlier.
Well, it'll certainly, he'll be making some big money for that fight, first time in his career, and it'll certainly catapult him. Not that he's not considered the best, if not one of the top 3 heavyweights in the world by most, but the fight will people are all eyes are on him, and that's why I would like to see him come out and show us something else. I think it'll add. If he comes out seek and destroy, people are going to say, see, that's what he does. But anyway, we'll have a lot of time to talk about it. We got almost 8 weeks, 7 weeks to talk about it. We'll be talking about some other things. There'll be some fights next week to chat with, and we'll be looking forward to your thoughts on those as well, my man.
Well, that sounds good, and I'll tell you what, Bill. You and I have watched this game closely, and we've seen some stars evolve before our eyes. And I guess I could say Canelo Alvarez is one of them, but I'll tell you what, that boxing, I've always used that term, rebooted itself, and it's alive. It's great. It's a sport. It's what we want, and these fighters are now taking the challenges that they want to fight the best because they feel they are the best, and that's exactly what you and I have been professing all these years. So I'm very happy about that, and as long as the fighter has that spirit, we're going to see some great wars for 2020.
I'm with you. And speaking of being with you, we got to coordinate doing something live from your place soon, maybe over the next couple of months. So we'll put that in play, and we'll talk to you next week, brother.
Sounds good, brother. You take care. Have a great day, and Happy New Year again.
All right. Take it easy, Sal.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
That's my main man, Sal Rocky Senecola. Don't forget to check out, if you're in the St. Simon's Island area, make sure you go to his restaurant. All the information can be found at Sal's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria.com. Or you could just click the banner up on PillyBoxing.com. Speaking of great stuff, you guys hear me talk about Kenny Bears, SouthernGourmetSpice.com. Check it out. Kenny Bears makes this barbecue rub that's really great. As a matter of fact, I'm addicted to the stuff. I put it on everything: pizza, burgers, chicken, the whole nine. It was designed as a rub for slow cooking and stuff. But Kenny, it's a real person, by the way. He keeps promising me he's going to take me fishing, but I don't know. He's so busy coming up with new stuff, like his Cajun spice and also his seasoned salt spice, which is up on the screen right now. Check it out, man. Get yourself a bottle of this or the original Kenny Bear's barbecue rub. Visit southerngourmetspice.com and find out what all the hubbub is about. It's some great stuff, man, and I kid you not. And you could reach out to him yourself. Go to their website and drop him a comment and ask him how pathetic I am when I'm running out of this stuff and I got to order more myself. It's like I'm a Kenny Bears addict. I can't go on without the stuff. So check it out. Order yourself a bottle. Let me know what you think. I know you're going to love it. Visit southerngourmetspice.com. Listen, I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have my man Dax Khan join us. So don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this.
Gave me instant relief, except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Aches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Don't forget to check out our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week boxing channel. That's right. Go to Billy C Boxing under Ginico USA. Find out all the information. Go to GinicoUSA.com. You can catch it on Roku and all the other major streaming devices. It was fun to watch it on a big screen TV for the first time. I did recently. But anyway, joining us right now is my man Dax Khan. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning, Billy C.
Happy New Year, my brother. Can you imagine that we're in our 16th year?
I'm telling you, 16 years, man. We may not be the biggest show out there, but, we're like Mexican fighters. We just keep on coming straight forward.
I don't know. Nobody else has done it consistently for 16 years. And I don't know if you catch the channel, but I always seem to fall on a couple of the old things we've done, and there's a couple of episodes specifically that have you, myself, and Alex when we were doing the roundtable discussions. And man, I tell you, we look so much younger, man. It's kind of scary to be honest with you. When I look at it, I'm like, man, when was I that young looking? It seems happened so quick. And
I didn't have teenagers then.
yeah, that's what happens. I know. I'll wait till you become a grandparent. But speaking of aging, I was talking earlier. Gamboa aged really in his last couple of fights, but against Davis last week, he clearly was an aged fighter. Did not look like his body was reacting to what he wanted to do. That didn't surprise me. I kind of expected that with Gamboa. But what did surprise me was Tank Davis did not look like he didn't take advantage of it. And you know, for a guy that talks the smack he does, to me, I finally, you know, the realization kicked in that he doesn't stand a chance with a fighter like Lomachenko.
No, not at all. Well, first, just addressing Gamboa looking like an aged fighter. You know, he is 38 years old. We forget, you know, how many amateur fights he has behind him. But, you know, his style and the type of fighter he is, Bill, he's always been one of those fighters who relies on those quick reflexes, you know, to throw a lot of punches. And, of course, as you get older, you can't let your hands go as much. And moving up a weight class, we had to expect that also. But on the other hand, considering, though, Gamboa, he didn't look that bad. Maybe that had to do with the poor performance that Davis put on. Considering, you know, you moved up a division and you still needed 2 turns at the scale to make weight. You know, that's very disappointing. You know, he looked lethargic inside the ring. He didn't have the stamina was obviously not the best. So I don't really know. Sometimes I really think that Gervonta Davis is very unhappy with his surroundings. He's been vocal about his contract with Mayweather, wanting to get out of it, when he's getting out of it, and so on. Last year, he was quite vocal about that, even on social media. You know, sometimes when you're not happy and you have a lot of people around you who are really not good influences, other than the fact that they can fight and they're really skilled, it's just a bad environment for him. We sometimes we also forget Davis is young, so he's easily impressionable. He doesn't have you know, a lot of experience, life experience, I should say, behind him in the business world. I don't want to be too harsh on him. I want to wait until we see his next fight and see how he does then. I wasn't overly critical of Naoya Inoue for going the distance with a 37-year-old Nonito Donaire when everybody else was. So let's see what happens in his next fight. But he can't keep coming in overweight like this and just thinking that he's going to cruise and coast.
You know, the thing is that boxing doesn't give, unfortunately, it doesn't give us the opportunity to learn by age. You know, so, you know, you're supposed to surround yourself, and today's fighter knows a lot more from the historical aspect of fighters of years gone past that have been taken advantage of. So I think they start out, you know, a little more educated. I think you have to throw in the mix that he's choosing also to hang around with some negative influences outside the ring, which I think transforms to performances inside, plus discipline with weight, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it's a short-lived career, the sport of boxing, even today when fighters fight longer. And, you know, Davis is in the middle right now. I mean, he's at his prime. And, you know, he's supposed to take a guy like Gamboa, and it's a great-looking fighter on his resume, but he's supposed to do what he needs to do, you know, take care of Gamboa. I agree with you that Gamboa looked good with his counterpunching, but he had a fraction of his hand speed. You know, if I just couldn't help but you know, match in my head Davis against Lomachenko, and the guy doesn't stand a chance. I wouldn't have said that 6 months ago. I had confidence that Davis would give him a fight. I don't think so at this point.
No, I agree. Especially with the part, you know, in boxing, unfortunately, you don't really get to learn on the job, and it is a short career. It's only been the last maybe decade, I guess, you know, to be a little generous, that, you know, guys can go in there into their 40s and fight. And a lot of that has to do with how rarely guys fight nowadays. You know, they're fighting once a year and not always against, you know, the very best, and that allows a fighter to drag out his career a little bit longer. But, at these lower weights, especially, you really don't get that chance. We see that at, the upper weights. We don't see it in the lower weights. So Davis is going to have to really buckle down, make some changes, and do what he's got to do, especially because, the first thing he's going to have to do, Bill, he's going to have to forget about the fact that Gamboa went almost a full 12 rounds. He's going to have to somehow make the fans forget that Gamboa went almost a full 12 rounds. After 10 of them, he had the bad Achilles heel, the tendon. That's what fans are always going to think of. 10 rounds with a bad tendon, a 38-year-old fighter, and you couldn't get him out of there?
Yeah, I understand.
Boxing's a business, Bill. We state that. The fighters like to state that. It's a business, and when something like that happens, it hurts your marketability.
Speaking of marketability, Jared Hurd is returning to the ring, and he's going to be on the Mikey Garcia Reddit card. I'm shocked at this, and not that he's coming back, but I'm shocked that he's fighting at the 154-pound weight class again. He's apparently he's going to be in the same weight class when he fights Francisco Santana. I would have thought for sure that he would have decided to come back as a middleweight at least, especially when he turned down the rematch to fight for the title in which he lost. I don't understand it. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't understand it either. There is no way that anybody can say this guy does not struggle to make 154 pounds. We sit there and talk about how big the Charlo brothers are. Jared Hurd is bigger than the Charlo brothers. And Jared Hurd is a good boxer, but as we were just talking about with Davis, all that weight on him really makes it hard for Hurd to let his hands go. We see that. We've seen that in the J-Rock fight. And him, wanting to stay at 154, I don't know why he would do that. I have no idea. Maybe they're waiting for a bigger fight. I'm not sure why. That was my thoughts on why he turned down, the rematch for his belt, saying, what, the weight just is too much for me. That's why I'm not going to do it. There makes no sense. And to top it off, the marketability aspect again, he's going in there making a return against a guy who's a career welterweight.
I know. I don't understand. I would have thought.
So he's not going to get any props. You know what I mean? He's not going to get any credit for the win, no matter how dominant he is, or especially if it goes out longer. It
screams that he didn't want to fight the guy. Style makes fights. I thought maybe it was something to do with making weight, but he didn't. I would have thought. Would have thought for sure he would have wanted to rematch with Julian Williams. It shocks me. It shocked me.
Styles make fights, Bill. But you know what? This is boxing. You're on that world class level. You can't sit there and say I'm not going to fight a guy because I don't like the style.
I know. No, you're right. You're right. 100%. And speaking of the Charlo brothers, I know I get a lot of flack for this, but I think they're overrated, grossly overrated, both of them. The last fight, it was an impressive fight for Charlo, junior middleweight fight. The middleweight fight, he just, that Charlo, I always get them confused. That Charlo never fights anybody. I just think that their shtick is the fact that they're twins, and they are in shape all the time, and they do look exciting, but neither one of them have ever fought a top-notch guy. And, now with what the PBC seems to be doing with trying to separate themselves from the rest of the sport, I don't see it changing. What's your thoughts?
Now, for a while, there was quite a good round robin, or bigger than a round robin actually, in that 154-pound division. You had both the Charlo brothers. You had Jared Hurd, Austin Trout. He was, he's faded quite a bit, but at the time, Austin Trout was up there, with the top 5 guys anyway. So I really don't know why that all didn't materialize. That would have been great for boxing. Would have been great, for the Charlo brothers. And then you had the loss for for Jamel, and then he comes back. He looks good. He wins the belt back from Tony Harrison. Jamal jumps up to middleweight, and he has looked less than ordinary, at middleweight. So, you're right. I hate to be that critical, but yeah, you're right. Their whole thing is that they're twins. Matter of fact, even if they, if they weren't twins, just the fact that they're brothers, it would not have sold so much as they, you know what I mean? They wouldn't have been able to live off of that as much as they have so far.
Let me tell you, the Tony Harrison fight was exciting because he was losing that fight. It was a boxing lesson that Tony Harrison was displaying. His counterpunching, his accuracy was doing justice for Harrison. But then he got caught. And, that's the nature of the business. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a third fight. I really wouldn't. It's exciting enough and it justifies it, But he was able to get that opponent to draw that kind of a fight out of him, whereas his brother has not. His brother has talked smack. I can't. The image that's in my mind is the altercation to a degree they had with Daniel Jacobs at Madison Square Garden. I think it was Madison Square Garden or Barclays Center. And he's like talking smack, and all of a sudden Daniel Jacobs stops as he was walking by and goes to him, and he looked like that bully that finally somebody stands up to, and he just shut up, and that's the kind of fight that he needs to do. If he wants to act like that and walk around with the bling 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 and pound his chest and all of that, at some point you got to put it up, man. Otherwise, just shut up.
This is true. The Jacobs incident, that was a little bit more than just boxing. They were really talking Danny Jacobs down, and Danny Jacobs just happened to be walking by and catch a little bit of what they were saying in his ear, already knowing what they had been saying online and in interviews, and he called them out on it. And Danny Jacobs that night, if you go and watch it, he had a little bit of street in him, so I don't think the Charlo brothers were ready for Danny Jacobs to step up on him like that. Look at their faces; they were shocked.
I know.
At 100 again, we speak about 154 pounds. Jamel Charlo, 154 pounds is not the right division for him. And as far as the Harrison, Tony Harrison was supposed to be a showcase. Tony Harrison wasn't supposed to win that first fight, and he certainly wasn't supposed to do as well as he did in the second fight.
Yeah, but he showed that he had a much superior skill set. And speaking of which, we mentioned Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs, that whole Chavez Jr. fight, Chavez looked good. You and I talked about that off air. He looked good at 5 pounds overweight, and then he pulled his quitting. But I think Daniel Jacobs has catapulted himself in that pound for pound category. I think he's shown us that, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again. He finally shed Andre Rozier as a trainer. I think it's going to help him immensely. He's a team-oriented guy. He focuses, and I love seeing him in the corner when he's listening intently to his trainer. He goes and does what the trainer says. He's seemingly getting better and better, and I can't wait to see him again. I think he's got a lot of opportunities in front of him, and I think one of the smartest things he did was hook up with Hearn.
I'm sorry, I missed the last sentence.
Eddie Hearns. I think it was one of the smartest things that he hooked up with Hearns.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The first thing that happened was he gets himself a title shot.
Right.
But Jacobs, I really believe if you go back to the Golovkin fight for the example that, again, with weight, he was having a hard time making that 160 pounds. He wouldn't have came in as a heavyweight. As a light heavyweight on the night that they fought. So now at 168 pounds, he doesn't have to cut as much weight. Let's see what happens. Jacobs, his style has changed a little bit in the last, 4 or 5 fights. He's become more boxer, and when he does seem to have a guy hurt, Jacobs doesn't go in there and finish. And I think that kind of hurts him a little bit on the cards. I think that hurt him in the Golovkin fight, to be honest with you. And, in the Canelo fight, he really flopped in that fight. It's not that he was hurt at all in that fight. He just more or less seemed like he froze under those big lights for some reason. So let's see how Jacobs does once he gets a little bit of resistance at 168 pounds. Maybe a guy like Fedor Shudinov, who will let his hands go, who does have some pop. Let's see how Jacobs deals with that at super middleweight. Let's see if Jacobs actually lets his hands go if he has one of his opponents hurt. Because all the guys that he's going to have to fight in that division, they're always going to have that hometown advantage, especially if it comes to like a Billy Joe Saunders or a Callum Smith, who didn't look that good in his last outing. So, Jacobs is going to have to step it up and do just that a little bit more to make sure that the judges look at it in his way.
Finally, last point I wanted to ask you is Canelo Alvarez, I thought had a great performance against Kovalev, stopping him in November and picking up his WBO light heavyweight title. Well, he vacated it. Mid-December, he vacated the title. It seems that that's indicative of him not wanting to campaign at light heavyweight, which, quite honestly, Dax, I thought that he did a hell of a lot better. I mean, he had his power back in him. He looked very, very solid at 175. I would imagine he's going to go to 168. I can't see him going back to middleweight. Maybe he will. That's my question. What's your thoughts? Is he going to go to 160? Is he going to go to 168? I mean, he seemingly did not have the pop at 160 that he had at 154, but he certainly had it at 175.
I don't really know if he had the pop at 175. It was an impressive knockout of Kovalev, but it wasn't a quick knockout, so to speak. Kovalev was worn down, and then, he ended up getting the stoppage. Canelo fought smart, which is what you need to do. At middleweight, there's really not a lot of big fights at middleweight for him. There's the unification fight with Demetrius Andrade, assuming, he wins his next fight, maybe a Derevchenko. But other than that, there's no big money fights for him there. Are there any big money fights for him at 168? There is. You have the Callum Smith fight. There are a few champions that are over here, like David Benavidez or Caleb Plant. Other than that, though, I'm not really sure what he's going to do business-wise and what would actually suit him. Light heavyweight, though, is certainly not the place for him. He looked great against Kovalev, but, there's a couple guys in that division that are not only good boxers, but they're hard punchers. And there's one guy that he wouldn't be able to escape if he stayed in that division because the public would call for him to fight him, and that's going to be Artur Beterbiev. And honestly, that would be just a train wreck waiting to happen. I wouldn't put my guy in there with Artur Beterbiev coming up from middleweight. I don't care if he knocked Kovalev out with one punch in the first minute of the fight.
I think that the fight is against Bivol. I think that he should fight Bivol at 168. Bivol can fight at 168, and Canelo has made it clear that he's looking for the biggest fights for the biggest money. I mean, he's proven everything he has to prove. He doesn't have to go and fight a Rocky Fielding anymore. He will seek out big fights against big names. And you're right, when you start to filter out who's available to him, the pickings are slim. You got Callum Smith. He likes to fight in Vegas, so, is Callum Smith going to be a big draw in Vegas? Bivol may be. He's fought in the United States several times. And then who else is there? Is a Charlo brother going to fight Canelo at middleweight? Forget about it. No way. Do they have the Triple G fight? Triple G is too much. He's become the guy that everybody said was too big is too small. Canelo's bigger than Triple G. Daniel Jacobs is bigger than Triple G. Even Floyd Mayweather is the same size as Triple G. All these guys said that Triple G was too big, and the truth of the matter is Triple G's not as big as any of them.
No, I agree, but also, with 37 years old, after the first two fights, it's not really going to create much interest with the public, and also that a win over Triple G, what's that really going to do for him? He's already has the one draw and a win over him, so it just really doesn't make sense in my opinion. As for I'm thinking to myself, Bill, and I'm thinking about the fans. Right now, Canelo has set the bar so high for himself that no matter what he does, he's going to undergo criticism. You know, even if he fought a guy that's in the top 10 at super middleweight or light heavyweight, he's going to get criticism. Right now, the fans are only going to want him to fight the very top guys, and that's it. So Canelo would have to either just wait around for these top guys to become available, or Canelo is going to have to sit there and, you know, stay busy in the ring, do his job, fight whoever is willing, you know, whether or not they're a top 10 guy or they're some sort of trinket holder, and that's not going to please the fans. But, you know, as you stated, Canelo wants the very best fights, so Canelo, I mean, might be, you know, he has his choice of who he wants to fight, and the only person that I would keep him away from is Arthur Beterbiev. Canelo against Dimitri Bivol would be a great fight. Not only can both guys punch, both guys are fantastic boxers, and I think the public would love it.
Beterbiev is a killer, but he's a barbaric fighter. Canelo, that matchup might be a good fight for Canelo in terms of showcasing his boxing skill, but it's not an easy fight, you know. And I agree with you there. They're going to wait a little.
Beterbiev is a better boxer than given credit for.
Yeah, but his footwork is kind of strange. You notice how the way his stance is. You know, I mean, that's why he's been down. It's not that he's been hurt. It's that he gets knocked off balance, and I think that a guy like Canelo could you know, take advantage of that. But I still like the Bivol fight. Two young fighters. It means something. I want to see Canelo fight. Not that he has anything to prove, but I'd like to see him fight a young gun. You know what I mean? I don't know. I that's what I'm looking for. But
I mean, the year, Bill, is starting out great, no? I mean, next week we got great fights.
Yeah, next week, you know, we do have some fights. We'll be talking about them next week. I'm looking forward to a couple of the cards. I'm not looking forward to Clarissa Shields' fight, and I'm not even going to watch it. You know, I've totally turned off with her. And you know, all of the antics and the mouthing and all of this. But there are some other good fights that we'll get a chance to talk to.
I will be at the Clarissa Shields fight.
Well, I know you like watching her fight. I'm not saying she's not a good fighter. It's just that the competition.
No, I'll just, you know, hey, look, it's a title fight. There's 2 title fights on that card, so, you know, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be covering that. I'm going to be down there with the kids from the gym, Newberg Hook Elite and Leonard Lee, and we're covering that for us. So, you know, just when you're starting out the year, you know, with big title fights, especially when they're close to here, you know, excited. And I'm especially looking forward to the Joe Smith Jr. and Jesse Hart fight.
Yeah, that's an interesting fight. You know, Joe Smith Jr., the one-punch knockout guy, and Jesse Hart, you never can count him out. I like the fight. But anyway, that would be good. We'll definitely get your insight on that post-fight next week.
And speaking of weight, you know, we're talking about all this weight, Bill. Jaime Munguia making his official move to middleweight.
I love that too. I heard some reports out of his camp that he's picked up some speed at the heavier weight, which I'm kind of curious to see. But that was my only knock on him, that he had no hand speed and he took too many punches. So let's see if struggling making weight was an issue for that. I mean, you know, he's got 6 pounds to deal with now. So we'll see if it makes a difference. We all love that kid, that's for sure.
Absolutely, makes great fights every single time out. Him and Jarrett Hurd would have been a good fight.
I know. That would have been a slugfest for sure. You're right, man. But listen, enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, everybody, enjoy your day.
That's Dax Khan. Check out his column, and now we know that he will be covering the fights down in New York next week. So anyway, hey, like I mentioned, I'm always talking about my addiction. No, not to anything illegal. I'm talking about to gourmet spices, Kenny Bear's barbecue rub. Well, now he's got a couple of new products out. And the Cajun, I just, you know, he was telling me, he was teasing me that he was going to be and stuff. And, you know, and then finally I got a sample. And, you know, I'm addicted to this stuff. You know, the Cajun, his seasoned salt is top notch. And, of course, the barbecue rub is the best. So visit the website, www.southerngourmetspice.com, and get yourself a bottle. Make sure you tell them Billy C sent you. because it'll make a difference. I don't know. Maybe you'll save some money. I don't know. But just tell him Billy C sent you. Joining me right now is my main man, Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you? Happy New Year.
I'm doing well. We're in our 16th year, and this is our first show of 2020. 2020. You know, I was talking to somebody about that the other day. I don't know about you. I know I'm significantly older than you, but 2020. I mean, I'm still thinking like we're in the 80s, kind of. You know, we're 20 years into the new millennium. 20 years. You know, it's kind of scary if you ask me.
I thought we were going to have flying cars by now.
When we were younger, the year 2000 was supposed to be like the Jetsons.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, gee, Astro. You know, we don't.
Where's my robot housekeeper? It's about a Roomba.
You'll take any housekeeper at this point. Come on. But anyway, we're talking about some issues here. A couple of fights that will be taking place, and one I wanted to get your thoughts on. I know it's early, but it's a significant fight of the first quarter of 2020. And, of course, it's the heavyweight rematch between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. It is official. We knew it was, but they finally have a locale now. It's going to be at your favorite place in Las Vegas, MGM Grand. It's going to be at the Garden Arena, which was where Canelo's last fight was. And I feel the same way about this fight that I have been since I knew it was going to take place. I know what I would like to see from Tyson Fury, and I think it's a better chance for him to win the fight. I know that he feels confident that he can knock out Tyson Fury, and I know that he can. But if he comes after Tyson Fury with more of a fury, if you will, and go for that knockout quicker, I think that's exactly what Tyson Fury's preparing for. And I think that that's his strength. I think that when fighters, and we saw it in Fury's last fight, when fighters make Tyson come to them, he kind of loses. That's his kryptonite. In putting it in a term that you would love, that's his kryptonite. And I think Deontay Wilder needs to fight a little smarter in the rematch rather than go in for that seek and destroy attitude. I know you've been pretty set on picking Fury in the rematch, but what's your thoughts on my comments?
I think that's a good point. I mean, I think that, I think you're right in that Fury has that ability to really get inside Deontay Wilder's head. And if Wilder lets him do that, that's a problem. And I think, like you said, if Wilder is patient and lets Fury come forward, I'm not sure Fury's going to be willing to, because that could make for a very dull fight for a while. But you're right. I mean, I think that everybody presses Fury. Even if you go back to the Klitschko fight, that was one of the reasons why that fight was so unbearable to watch. Was you had Klitschko was the one who was supposed to press, and Klitschko made a career of being sort of hesitant. So I do think that I know that probably just social media just lit up with lots of Klitschko fans saying, "What did he just say?"
Well, let me tell you, they light up with other things you say. But anyway, go ahead. But that's another website. But go ahead.
But I do think that. I think that's the thing that's been great about Tyson Fury is that he's a better fighter now than he was when he beat Vladimir Klitschko. This is going to be interesting to see him with the new trainer, but I don't think that it's going to be too much of a problem for him. To me, that's a big change to make before such an important fight.
I agree.
But I don't know. I still feel pretty confident that it's Fury. It's Fury's fight to lose. I do think Wilder has improved. What we saw against Ortiz, he did look more patient, more cautious. I thought his chin, his ability to take a punch seemed a little better. But again, it was hard to judge because he lost pretty much every single round before he landed that big shot. So I don't know. I do think that like the first time, Fury has to not get hit. But I like Fury to beat him. I think when you think about it, for me, parts of why I like Fury to win are things. Yes, Fury got dropped, but look what happened when he got up. Wilder came in to try to close the show, and he backed off because Fury caught him. So that's the thing about it, is I do think that that Fury is much more skilled and just a clever, discombobulating guy to fight. And I think that kind of stuff is going to, that's more important than power, I think, because power, if you get it to the target, it's great. But even, if moment to moment, Fury has more tools to win those moments in between.
Do you think that they've already announced that there's 2 more fights signed, so they are going to have a third fight? Fat Apples brought that up in the chat room, and I heard the same thing. So I know, I know that it's a done deal.
Really?
So do you think? Well, it makes sense. Think about it. The first fight's a draw, so regardless of who wins, they could cry for a rematch. The loser. If somebody won the first fight, then if that same guy wins the second, why do you need to see a third? So they kind of set up a trilogy here. But I also have gotten to the point where it seems that Tyson Fury is in a win-win situation here. I think that he's gotten to a point, not that he wasn't a household name prior to, but he certainly has elevated his status as a sports superstar, with his involvement with wrestling and all of this, and the fact that he's such a funny guy, really. You give him a microphone and he's got, he's such a snazzy dresser, but I just think like he's clearly the anti-Wilder. Wilder has been, one of the things I admire about Deontay is that he's loyal. His team has screwed him. His team has prevented him from making, probably at least $50 million more than he's got. And as a result of it, we meet this version of Wilder that seems to rub most people the wrong way. He wants to kill somebody in the ring and, all of this kind of stuff. I mean, he pushes the envelope, but that's his only way of promoting himself because he has no promotion really behind him. But with that said, you make an interesting point. He has a tendency to lose all these rounds because of his lack of boxing ability, and then the equalizer's that right hand, which has come home and helped him in every one of his fights. What's going to happen when it doesn't work anymore? What's plan B? He's abandoned all of the technical attributes that I'm sure Mark Breland has tried to instill on him in training camp. And like I said to Sal earlier, when fighters are in trouble, they revert back to what they know best. Tyson Fury was in serious trouble in that fight, and he reverts to what he knows best. Survived the round. He even lands the counterpunch that you mentioned in that final round. I mean, all those things Tyson Fury has. Deontay doesn't.
Yeah, I mean that's why I do think that I like Fury's chances. But I think that, that's what makes it intriguing is that all of that goes right out the window if you get hit with those massive bombs of Deontay Wilder's. I think that's the thing that that makes this such a big money fight, that makes it an interesting fight. Like you said, people love to see knockouts, and heavyweight knockouts are like nothing else. I watched a clip of the what was it? A real grisly knockout from this year. Derek Chisora knocking out Artur Spilka. Oof, God, that was a scary knockout. But that's the thing. Heavyweight knockouts are like nothing else. They are, one of the spectacles of the modern world. So these guys absolutely, that potential is there every time Wilder steps into the ring. So he's going to command big purses forever because of that. And now, because you have a guy that we've seen take his best shot and get up, that's what makes this fight so much more intriguing. This is, I guess it is going to be, even though it is on ESPN Plus, I guess it is going to be pay-per-view. So that must mean a theater night. Alex likes those theater nights. So this is going to be cool. And you're right. It's at the MGM. I can only imagine the pageantry for that. Mike Tyson's going to be there, probably fresh from Planet 13. That's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, well, if he is, he'll be the mellower new Mike Tyson. But
he'll be smiling.
Yeah, he'll be smiling. Yeah, I'm not sure how they're working that out. Is it? Do you know that for a fact? So it'll be on ESPN Plus and it will be on a pay-per-view. Is that how it's working?
I don't know, because when I saw who's carrying it, it said ESPN Plus Fox pay-per-view. Well, Fox pay-per-view usually, that, like Errol Spence, Sean Porter was Fox pay-per-view. That was in the theater. So I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. Huh. Well, we'll see. I guess that'll be good. The one thing I like with the DAZN over ESPN Plus is DAZN. You subscribe to DAZN. Now I feel like a promo for them. And you don't want to stay up till 3 a.m. to watch a fight. It's available the next morning for you.
Right.
You're a subscriber. It's there. ESPN Plus, it's not. They'll do a replay at some point, but it's not there. So it's like you got to stay up and watch it. And plus, ESPN Plus, let me tell you something. I redid a place in my house, and I got a big screen TV, and it was a smart TV, which every TV now you buy is a smart TV. And apparently the brand TV I got doesn't have ESPN app, right? So I had to, and I already subscribed to it, so I had to get something else. I ended up getting one of those sticks and, set it all up just so I could watch it on the TV. So ESPN Plus isn't as easy to get as the DAZN is. The DAZN you can get anywhere, which I thought was kind of stupid, especially from ESPN, But anyway, Canelo vacates his WBO light heavyweight title. I thought he looked extremely strong at light heavyweight. I thought he put on a great performance against against Kovalev. And Dax was saying, that he thought that he wore him down. But that was the beauty of that fight, I thought. I thought that Canelo was patient and wore down Kovalev, and then unleashed the pop that I do believe that he, has at light heavyweight, which he didn't seem to have at middleweight. I'm surprised that he vacated that title. It looks like he's going to go to super middleweight or even back down to middleweight. What's your thoughts on that, Alex? You saw the fight. You were there. You saw him at light heavyweight. He looked strong.
He did look strong, but I think his team is aware that that was sort of a strike mission. Let's go to 175. Let's get a title. Let's get out of there. Because I don't think, he doesn't have that legitimate light heavyweight size, even though he does have it in terms of bulk. He doesn't have the length and the height of those guys. And we saw, Kovalev was able to jab the hell out of him. I can only imagine what a younger, less spent guy like a Bivol could do. So I'm not too surprised that he vacated it. I thought it would have been interesting to see him try his skills at Bivol, but no, I think it's more likely that he'll go back to 168 and fight like a Callum Smith, and I think that's a really good fight. If that's the Cinco de Mayo offering, I think that's a pretty good matchup, because, you know, I don't know. I mean, the Golovkin thing, I think that's past. I don't see that happening anymore, and maybe it's Sergey Derevyanchenko, because, you know, that did that, because I don't know. I think that Jermall Charlo versus Gennady Golovkin would be a good fight. Like you guys were talking about earlier, that would at least prove a lot of things about what we can expect from Jermall Charlo. Is how does he do against Golovkin?
How does he do against anybody that's good? Hey, I want to thank my man Max. He gave us a super chat, and he's in the chat room right now. We appreciate that. We'll be able to keep the lights on now for another hour or two. But he said that he feels Tyson Fury may stop the big Doser. I don't know. How is that? Was that pronounced Dozer or Doser? You know what?
I think it's Dosser.
Dosser, okay.
Like toss, but Doss.
Yeah, like Dosser.
Yeah.
And that's Tyson Fury. You know, thanks Max for that. But I wonder if he could stop him though.
Hey, Billy C. You know, one thing. This is a little side note, but it is interesting. I think I might have gotten to the bottom of where the whole Andre Ward. Dre Ward came from.
Oh, really?
Watching the Patriots game with some friends last night, and noticed Joe Tessitore kept calling Booger McFarland Boog.
Really?
So I think he might have been the one who changed it from Andre to Dre.
Well, the first, that could make sense, because the first time he referred to him as Dre, there was silence, like there was like, where's this Dre guy, and then all of a sudden, every other word was Dre, this Dre, like just pointing out, hey, Andre, from now on, you're Dre.
I imagine it was very similar the first time he called him Boog.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, that outcome couldn't have been any better for me. I absolutely despise the Patriots, and I can't wish anything but ill will on them. And that's only coming from a very disgruntled Jet fan. So, but anyway, just to reiterate on Max's point is something that you've kind of said. My one knock, and I've been a Tyson Fury fan since I was turned on to him in the second pro fight. I've watched every single one of his fights, whether they were available or not. I would watch the replays on YouTube. But that's the one thing about Tyson Fury. If he had a little more punching power, I mean, Alex, if the guy had more punching power, he'd be unbeatable, really. I mean, he doesn't even have to possess the Deontay Wilder punching power. But if he had a little more, I just can't help but remember in Steve USS Cunningham getting him in trouble with uppercuts that night. Obviously Deontay Wilder doesn't surprise me that he hurt him. But if Tyson Fury did have some more pop, I don't think we're even talking about this fight. I think it would have ended in the first one.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure he was wishing for a little more pop himself against Otto Wallin to get that fight over quicker. I think, but all these guys, you go to war with the guy you have, So I think that I think it is possible that Fury could stop Wilder, just in the sense that any heavyweight could stop any other heavyweight. A guy like Fury, especially, would stop him maybe from tiring him out and frustrating him. We did see Wilder get arm weary from missing a couple of times in the first fight, and those were usually in the rounds where he had him hurt, or had him down, and then when he got up, Tyson was able to tag him back and then make him miss. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that kind of a stoppage is not out of the question.
Now, refresh
an exhaustion stoppage.
Refresh my memory. Did Deontay Wilder come into that fight lighter than he normally does, or was he heavier? I'm just curious because he is muscle bound, and that could explain why he does run out of gas. You know, that muscle mass burns up oxygen, and Tyson Fury clearly doesn't possess much of that. But I can't recall if he came in to, you know, because a couple of fights he comes in lighter for movement, and he has come in heavier for other fights. I can't recall.
He was 212 and a half versus Tyson Fury, and he was 219 and a half against Luis Ortiz. So he was like 7 pounds lighter than his last fight.
I wonder if he feels that he's better against a bigger guy lighter. You know, it's always amazed me, and I do. Not that I'm huge. I'm not a Wilder fan at all, but I do admire his punching ability, and he certainly has some outrageous power for really a small heavyweight. I mean, I know he's height wise, but his body build is more of an NBA player than it is a fighter. You know, so I do give him credit, but like I said earlier. These guys, any fighter, any athlete really goes into what comes naturally and automatically. And for Deontay Wilder, that's I'm going to go knock this guy out. And I think that fights into Tyson Fury's game plan. The question is going to boil down to, can Tyson keep him off him? And that's going to dictate the fight or not.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it looks like that the first fight with Fury, that was the third lightest he ever was in his career. His first pro fight, he was only 207. His second, he was 213. And then he wasn't down to 212 again until the Fury fight. So that shows you just he took it very seriously and was in great shape. His biggest fight, or the most he weighed, it looks like, was against Eric Molina, 229. So you're right. I mean, he's got that sort of spindly form, whereas Joshua is more bulky of the three heavyweight champs.
Well, Joshua came in lighter for his rematch with Andy Ruiz, and he looked good, but then again, Andy Ruiz didn't. But that whole thing. Listen, that whole fight, that potential fight. I mean, as much as I'm an AJ fan, I lean towards Deontay Wilder because of the punching power. I certainly don't, and no disrespect to Andy Ruiz, they made him out to be this power puncher when he really wasn't. He's a busy fighter, and he happened to have knocked out Anthony Joshua. But I believe that Deontay Wilder possesses punching power that would totally destroy Anthony Joshua if he could get in. Then Tyson Fury shows that a skilled boxer with defensive ability can control Deontay, but AJ doesn't have the defensive prowess that Tyson Fury has. So all those fights are interesting. They're all extremely interesting. The division is interesting.
Definitely.
So.
Well, and the other thing, I mean, to me, I'm very excited that both that fight is already set and also the Teofimo Lopez versus Vasily Lomachenko fight. That's supposedly set for April. I'm very excited for both those fights. I don't think there's a site yet for the Lopez fight, Lopez-Lomachenko, but it's very possible that'll end up right in New York City because Lopez has a big audience there. So I don't know. Those 2020 starting off grand if we got those two fights already.
Well, don't forget that there's talk of Shannon Briggs fighting Vladimir Klitschko too. Briggs said, "All I want for Christmas are Vlad's two front teeth." This guy is. But he's still trying. Let's go, champ! Let's go, champ! I mean, I got to give him credit. He's made some money on this, and if Klitschko wants to come back, he's scared us with some talk about making a comeback. That certainly would be a money fight for him, because I think people would actually pay to see Klitschko beat the snot out of Shannon Briggs. But can you believe it's still even in the news?
No, I can't.
Yeah. So anyway, Alex, appreciate you taking some time with us today, and I know we'll be getting your thoughts next week. We got a couple of good fights that we will be talking about next week, post-fight. So I look forward to that. And one last thing, be careful on the internet. People just don't tell them where you live. All right, just keep that quiet.
One thing I did want to mention is I think just like the Good Guy Award of the year.
You're giving it to me? You're giving it to me?
Well,
no.
one to you, and then one to Danny Jacobs. If you saw at the end of his win over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., when little Chavez Jr. was whining and complaining right in his face, saying, you headbutted me a lot. And Daniel Jacobs, class act that he is and good guy that he is, said, I'm sorry. When he could have said, screw you.
Listen, Daniel Jacobs was hit it on the head. Chavez looked good in that fight till he quit. I'll never forget the camera in on Papa Chavez shaking his head, putting his head in his hands. I mean, he was devastated with that. And, Danny Jacobs was right. Because the fans were so upset with Chavez Jr., they took from him to bask in the glory of that victory that night. And I think that he has risen to the top. He's in the pound-for-pound discussion, in my opinion, at this point. He's done nothing but get better and better. I wish him well. He finally shed himself of Andre Rozier in his corner, and he is a class act. And he's what boxing needs, Alex. It's a good point. He's class act, and he can back it up too.
Absolutely, just a great man.
You're right. Thanks for reminding me of that. That was good stuff. But anyway, you have a good week. We'll be talking to you next week, brother.
All right, Billy C. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. That's my man Alex Papali giving us his thoughts on a bunch of stuff which we value here for sure. So, but in any event, I keep talking about the I keep talking about this, my addiction. Yes, even I have been known to have a weakness, and my weakness is comes from Southern Gourmet Spice. So you could check that out, southerngourmetspice.com. Get yourself a bottle of Kenny Bears. The barbecue rub is great, but he's got two new products out right now. One is the Cajun seasoning, and the other is the I guess it's a seasoned salt seasoning. Either way, they're really good, and you should check it out for sure, because I got my sample and it was great. So hopefully you guys will get yourself a sample as well. But in any event, and you can get yourself a sample by visiting southerngourmet.com. Joining us right now, I believe, I think we have. I guess I keep losing Emily. I'm trying to get Emily on the phone here. The best boxing photographer on the planet, and I believe we have her right now. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what do you keep hanging up on me? Come on, man.
I am on this planet. I'm just making sure.
I'm like, I thought, we were tighter than that, like I called you twice and you're hanging up on me, but Happy New Year and all that stuff. And
Happy New Year to you and everybody out there.
We are entering our 16th year, which is, man, the time flies. So we're excited about that. But let's get some thoughts from you first and foremost. I talked about some fights that took place towards the end of the year, and the one that sticks out in my head is the Davis-Gamboa fight. And the reason why is I've always been a big fan of Yuriorkis Gamboa. I love the guy, but I think we clearly saw him in that old fighter state against Davis. He was in position to throw punches. He knew, his mind knew when to throw a punch. His body just wasn't reacting. I'm okay with it. I was expecting it. But what I wasn't expecting was Davis. I thought Davis should have taken care of business. After this fight, Emily, I'm saying to myself, there's no way that Tank Davis can be in the same ring with Lomachenko. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing. Like those first few rounds, I thought, wow, everything you've done up to this point really hasn't prepared you in the way that, people talk about or you talk about as a fighter when you say I'm this and I'm that. Like, if you're going to fight at a level, and again, Gamboa, like you said, he's at a point where, we're okay with you hanging them up, but he's got a skill and he's got ring experience that really showed a lot of us what Tank actually is made out of, and I think we saw somebody that really has to go back to the drawing board and look at what he's done, what he did in that fight. And if he is going to fight Lomachenko, he needs to have a different game plan. He needs to have a different training regime. And he needs to take this seriously. You're at a level where people are expecting you to be as big as your bark. And if you're going to be as barky as Floyd Mayweather, then you need to be as savvy as Floyd Mayweather, and you're not doing that. Now, he's a young fighter who's been moved along pretty quickly, and so I think the expectations from people are a lot higher, and again, your mouth has a lot to do with that, but he needed this. I think a lot of people needed to see something like this so that people could maybe be humbled a little bit, but I don't think it really humbled him that much. I think if he really ends up in there with a Lomachenko on his next go-around, he's not going to be able to get up to be humbled.
The thing is he possesses hand speed, and when he went after Gamboa, he clearly, I thought he was just going to put the pedal down and finish the fight, but then he would back off. And Gamboa just doesn't have the hand speed anymore. If he had half of the hand speed, I think he really connects. He was counterpunching and landing on Davis. I just was surprised. I mean, I know that Gamboa was a name they wanted on his resume, but a knockout win, well, although they gave him the knockout win, an earlier knockout win I thought would have been better. I just can't see him staying in there with a Lomachenko. I just don't,
Yeah, I don't either. And I often wonder too, like I hear fighters say, well, I never go back and watch my fights. And I just wonder why. Like, why wouldn't you go back and watch your fight and figure out like what didn't work for you? Even if you're not going to fight that guy again, other people are going to go back and study your fights and figure out like, okay, this is how this person moves when, this happened and what have you. And I hate to bring up his name, and I know, what have you, his career probably ended in New England last night. But Tom Brady, showed people that he really does go back and watch people. And I thought that was pretty amazing when I watched a documentary on him, how much he really studied individual players. And I thought, how many fighters actually do that? Not just coaches, not just trainers, but fighters. Go back and either watch themselves or other fighters to really go, okay, tick, 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 this is what they do. Tick, tick, tock, that's what they don't do. I think it's really important for fighters to take their careers into their own hands and do stuff like that. Whether you won or lost, I think it's a learning experience.
You're 100% right. And any fighter that says they don't do that, are either ignorant or they're lying. Because with today's technology, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't a trainer want to go and break down their fighter's last performance to just see what they could have done better? All it's doing is it's trying to make you a better fighter. And then, of course, you're going to evaluate your opponent, especially in this sport where you have so much time generally. That's what I love about those tournaments where you don't know who you're fighting. I think that adds a whole nother element to the fight where you can't prepare for a specific kind of fighter or bring in those sparring partners to emulate that style. I mean, that's huge. You make a great point. There's no question about that. I wanted to ask you about the Jacobs fight. We were talking about Chavez Jr. quitting again. It's got to be over for him. And I thought that Daniel Jacobs fought great. He took on a new trainer. I was never a big fan of Andre Rozier. I thought that he made a great move in getting rid of him. He seems better. He seems, and I'm not saying it's because of one trainer in one fight, but Daniel Jacobs seems to have taken that step up. And I think he's in the pound-for-pound discussion right now, Emily. And I can't wait to see him fight again. I mean, that's what he showed me in that Chavez Jr. fight.
Yeah, regardless of all the drama with weight and Chavez just not being, what people I think hoped we were still going to get out of him, he's a class act, Jacobs. He came in there, he fought hard, he fought to his best ability, regardless of what was in front of him. And I think you're right. I think that the trainer switch did make a difference. And I think sometimes that's what's needed. I don't think it's any disrespect to the person who's brought you to the position that you're at. I think it's sometimes you need that change. It's like a good English teacher. You can't always have the same English teacher for 4 years of whatever you're going through, because they're not going to always pick up on things that another teacher that doesn't know your work is going to see. And that's what I think is great about this sport, is that fighters can kind of, they can maneuver themselves when there's, that area of gray, like, okay, I know I need to make a move and things aren't working for me. It's not like being on a team where you got to wait for 4 years for a trade and maybe you're stale by then. This was a great move for him, and I think it's only going to benefit him.
Speaking of Julio Cesar, how about Julio Cesar Martinez? He was on the undercard. He picked up the WBC flyweight title in a fantastic fight against Christopher Rosales. I love this kid. Not that I do. I got to admit, I like these kinds of fighters that just take a fight to their opponent and force their opponent to take the fight back to them. It's exciting. I know it puts fighters more in danger, but hey, that's what the nature of this sport is. What's your thoughts of this guy? He got the title ripped from his hands previously because he in an emotional, he hit the guy while he was down. There's no question about it. He gets another shot, makes the best of it. This is a guy that I just can't wait to see again. And, when you get fighters like this in this weight class, you got to see, you want to see more, and for a small weight class that really doesn't get the publicity it should, Julio Cesar Martinez could definitely help.
Yeah, the personality alone with this kid, can really be bank for him. And that's important as a fighter as well. And in a weight class like that where you do need somebody who's kind of a voice and a face and what have you, they got it. I think I just read that he's coming back in the next couple weeks too. Like, he's already making another return right after this fight, maybe the beginning of February. But this is a kid who wants to fight. This is what he does. He knows this is his business. This is his job. This is his profession. And I think that the last situation was a good wake-up call for him to realize that this window of opportunity can close on you just purely based on choices that you make outside of the fight and what have you. But I think this kid has got a bright future for him, and I think if he keeps fighting the way that he does, he's going to be on top of the world for a bit. I agree that fighting in this style can be dangerous to a fighter, but that's how he fights. I wouldn't want him to fight in any other fashion because it would be boring. At that weight class, at that level, you want to see two guys stand in front of each other and go after each other and bang, because that's what you do. That's what you trained for,
Yeah, is no question about that, and maybe he does realize that his style equals short career, but you never know. Canelo vacated his light heavyweight title. I was kind of hoping he was going to campaign in that division. I thought he looked strong against Kovalev. Team Kovalev. I got to speak with Kathy Duva and his trainer, who I love, Buddy McGirt. And they were very confident going into that fight. And I thought that Canelo broke him down and then knocked him out, something that he seemingly lost at middleweight. Where do you think he's going to go from now? By vacating that title, to me at least, it's an indication he's not going to campaign at light heavyweight. Is he going to go back to middleweight in your opinion, or do you think he's going to try to hang around super middleweight? What do you think?
I saw a great photoshopped photo of him as a heavyweight the other day. I thought it was kind of funny. I think he'd make a better sumo wrestler as a heavyweight based on the photo. But I think he's got more of an opportunity at middleweight, and if he can make it to the weight again, and he can, be good about it and consistent, then, I think that's more where his money is, and maybe the fights are.
What fight? What fight?
I don't know. That's the thing. I mean, I think you got other guys that are coming up that maybe he feels would be, good for him. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't stay at light heavyweight. I don't know why you wouldn't try to pull some of these other guys that, you fought at other weights. Try to pull them up there and see how they fare at that weight. Because I don't think, I mean, what do? You either go up to cruiserweight and there's nothing there, or you go down. And can you still make the weight as you get older? What happens there? I don't know.
I mean, the Charlo is a guy at middleweight because of his mouth and because of the PBC. Maybe that's a money fight, but the guy just doesn't have the quality. He wouldn't stand a chance against Canelo. And
I think there's other people that are in line before that deserve a shot before that. I look at the Demetrius Andrades. Even if you go back to Jacobs or you go back to Triple G, I think that there are other people that make a more valuable case and a valuable fight there for him than somebody like Charlo. Mouth-wise, all he's going to do is just shut his mouth, and that's it.
I know. I can't wait to see it. But and finally, we're going to be talking about this a lot over the next 7 weeks, but it is official. Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury will be fighting February 22nd at the MGM in Las Vegas. I'm having a hard time flip-flopping my thoughts on this fight. I feel the same way as I always have on this rematch. I just believe that Deontay Wilder, I just think he's going to go in for the kill quicker, and I think that's exactly what Tyson Fury wants him to do and will be prepared. And should Deontay Wilder do that, I think it'll be Tyson Fury's fight. I personally think that Deontay Wilder should take advantage of the fact that Tyson Fury, the only times that he doesn't dominate a fight is when he has to be the aggressor with his opponent. And I think if Deontay could display some boxing skill other than seek and destroy, it may be beneficial to him. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's kind of always been his way, to seek and destroy, and to see him have to box a little bit. I think that's something he needs to train for, Deontay, that is, because you're going to have a Fury that is going to expect you to come in the way you have with everybody else and throw bombs. It's not like he hasn't been in there with you before. But I think for this fight, for both guys, you have to have a game plan of A, B, C, and D, and maybe even E, because you just don't really know what kind of tactics the individual is going to come in with, even though you've seen them in the ring in front of you themselves before. I just think this fight has the potential to go in a variety of directions. There's no clear, like, okay, yep, Deontay's going to take this, no problem. Of course, there are fans out there that are completely on that bus and are never going to get off that bus. But we know, just based on what we've seen from him, and if you go back to his older first few fights, you can see that, the way to box for him is not there. And if Tyson can take advantage of that, then, he's in a great position. On the other hand, if Tyson gets tired out because Fury realizes, well, I'm going to make you pressure me this entire fight, then Tyson Fury could be in some trouble. But I think we have a smarter fighter with Tyson Fury than maybe the first go around, and even a couple years ago. I think we have a man who's more mentally focused on what's in front of him versus the rah-rahness that you sometimes get from Deontay. So I think, in my opinion, Fury holds the upper hand just based on mental focus.
You're right, and I agree with you. I do believe he displays much more smarts inside the ring than Deontay does. Deontay seek and destroy. And you know what's kind of mind-boggling there, is that Mark Breland's his trainer, and Mark Breland is such a smart guy.
I know.
What a talented trainer. I have to believe that they go through these scenarios in training, and Deontay just reverts back to what he knows. Although he seems very, their corners always seem calm. Anytime I've seen, inside the corner, with the camera shots and the mics and stuff, Breland and Wilder seem to have a great rapport with each other. And it seems that everything is going according to plan, and it just boggles my mind because I know what a tactician Mark Breland is and was as a fighter as well.
Yeah, and maybe you have that conversation prior to with your trainer and your fighter that I know how you are. I know this is how it's going to go. I know you're not going to listen to me in the corner, so we're just going to go out there, and if you're in trouble, I'll let you know you're in trouble, and we're all just going to stay calm. I mean, I just think of, like, what would a chaotic corner look like? And we've seen that, so I think Mark Breland is a smarter man than to know to be like, why aren't you listening to me? What's going on with you? To create that chaos and unrest in the corner, so maybe there's some unspoken or, previously spoken, like, okay, this is what we're going in here to do, and this is your role, and that's my role, and that's that. And here's your check in the end. I mean, who knows how that whole thing goes down? But you're right, because that corner is always calm, even when the pressure is on. I think that's a good corner right there when your corner is calm and the pressure's on.
You're right. If anybody ever wants to really see what a chaotic corner looks like, Andre Bird. His corners were chaotic. I mean, people yelling and screaming. But anyway, Emily, I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll certainly look forward to you next week. Are you covering those fights down in the city?
I think I am.
All right, so we will, hopefully you'll be alive and well early in the morning on Sunday.
Sounds good, guys.
All right, Emily, take care.
Have a good week.
That's boxing's best photographer, Emily Harney. But hey, listen, I got an email to read. This is from my man, Coach. He says, hey, Billy C., Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Coach. He says, I hope this finds you with your year 2020 off to a great start. After talking with my son, I had to change my knockout pick of the year, and he picked initially the same one that Alex was talking about earlier, Chisora Spitska, to Sam Maxwell stopping an unbeaten Sabrini Sadiri, making it my favorite knockout of 2019. He says, even strange for myself not making the brutality of the KO the most important factor, and the comeback dynamic taking charge in this case. The Liverpool super lightweight Maxwell, who was down in rounds 1 and 2, being taunted throughout the fight by Sadiri. Maxwell rallies to put Sadiri down and out in the final round to capture the vacant WBO European version of the title. He says, to steal from my man and one of your premier writers for BillyCBoxing.com, Johnston Brown. He wants to know a penny for your thoughts. Well, I watched it after. I got to admit, I did not even know of this fight. I did watch it, and if you haven't, you can do the search. Sam Maxwell, Sadiri is the opponent. And I certainly see what Coach was saying. I also have to admit that this year I really didn't focus on knockouts of the year and everything. Overall, for 2019, I thought we had a really good year of boxing. We'll never get it perfect, but it's certainly heading in the right direction. I think the solidifying streaming services like DAZN and ESPN Plus really helped the sport. I am fully supportive of DAZN, and I hope that they continue to control the sport in the way they seem to be. And I like the willingness of the top promoters putting their fighters in with their competition, so to speak. Golden Boy, Eddie Hearn, Bob Arum, and Top Rank, all crossing over and making the fights we want to see the way it used to be. The only one left that's still trying to beat to their own drum, or roll to their own drum, however you want to say it, is the PBC, with the exception of Andy Ruiz fighting Anthony Joshua. If anybody really knows, they had no faith in Andy Ruiz beating Anthony Joshua the first time. That's why they let that fight happen. The rematch took place because it had to. It was in the contract. But aside from that, you very rarely see a PBC fighter fight outside the PBC. And I think what has happened is, yes, we've had some decent matchups with the PBC. There's no question about it. And we've had some decent fights. But there's only so many. I just think that, I use the Charlo brothers as an example. They're extremely overrated, 100% overrated. Deontay Wilder, has left money on the table, at least $40 or $50 million. Anthony Joshua made well over $40 million for his rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr. Deontay Wilder has yet to make that in his career. Anthony Joshua doesn't fight for less than $20 million a fight. Now, granted, Deontay is going to make some big money with these next two fights against Fury, but still, he's left, at least $100 million on the table because of his own loyalty, which I totally respect. But the truth of the matter is to make the big money today in this sport, you have to cross the lines. Boxing is not a single sport. We don't need, division in the sport of boxing. We need unity. And maybe we could take a couple of steps closer to unity in the sport of boxing as we hit the ground here in 2020. I just want to thank everyone for watching the show and being with us, especially for all of you that have been with us for the 16 years we've been doing this show. We've come a long way. We started doing this show as a half-hour show out of a gym I owned in Poughkeepsie, New York, called Snoop's, and it has blossomed into what we have today. A lot of people want us to have a bigger presence on YouTube, which I agree with. We are trying to do that, but we are on the radio, and I thank all of our radio affiliates, and we are on TV. I thank our television affiliates. And I believe as far as, and our podcasters, we have over 250,000 podcast subscribers. They've been strong throughout the years. But I think the growth on YouTube is really up to you guys. Spread the links around, and anything you could do, we certainly would appreciate it. Hey, listen, make sure you tune in next time. Same bat channel. Wait. I guess, last year I did it differently. Tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.